So right now, there's a very robust conversation happening nationally around police brutality, racial profiling, and these different kinds of questions of how the state engages with people of African descent in the United States. And this conversation has been predominated in many ways by violence against Black men and boys, or even looking internally and thinking about intracommunal violence. So looking at Black men and boys who have violent associations with one another. What gets overlooked quite often in this is Black women and girls. So police brutality, racial profiling, sexual violence, Black women who are dying in police custody, someone like a Sandra Bland that became a really popular national topic. So thinking about what this looks like post-2000 in the 21st century, to think about the state as an arbiter in certain ways of violence against Black women. So I think we need to have, first, a very serious conversation to acknowledge that this is a problem. I think that's part of what we're dealing with right now, is how we address this and how people see this as a thing. Is this a convergence, really, of racism and sexism that we're seeing, that Black women become invisible in these kinds of conversations? So we need to look at the numbers of how many Black women are dying in police custody, how many Black women are having these violent encounters with police, and then asking, what are the kinds of implicit bias that find their ways into all of our institutions, not just policing. We see this in our schools with higher disciplinary rates for Black girls for the same infractions as their white counterparts. So some of this is about implicit bias. Some of this is about how we think about who might be violent, racist stereotypes, sexist stereotypes. So I think doing a lot of unlearning, we often talk about as educators learning, and I'm very interested in the concept of unlearning certain things. In 2008 and 2012, we saw how many celebrities and pop culture artists were really associated with different campaigns, were coming out, talking about this, trying to encourage young people to vote. Well, I think also in this very highly charged political moment, you see a lot of pop culture artists, be it Beyonce, maybe a rapper like Kendrick Lamar, or even someone more recently like Chance the Rapper, doing work that has these very clear political themes, whether that's embracing African American culture in particular ways, or someone like Beyonce, and really making an album that centers around Black womanhood in a moment where these questions about are Black women being recognized, their labor, violence against them, all of these questions, making a project that's centered in that way, or Kendrick Lamar making a project which addresses police brutality and racial profiling, or Janelle Monáe, or any number of artists who are really taking that route in their music, or artists who are canceling shows in states like North Carolina because of very, very controversial bills like HB2. So that was Bruce Springsteen in one instance. So I think that there's something to be seen about how pop culture artists, our celebrities, mass media will be engaging the political climate. And I think there are more artists who are feeling emboldened to make certain kinds of statements, either with their art or even just in their interviews and how they're engaging with their fans. One of the things that concerns me right now, even if I think about it in terms of the political climate right now, is the very real thing of poverty that's happening right now. And what that looks like, what we're told. We're told, the average family is supposed to earn less than $52,000 a year, which seems almost untenable to me to think about families surviving on that. But we often hear conversation about restoring the middle class, or the housing crisis, or these things that are very much so attached to a kind of middle class, upper middle class, and elite class politics. But we have a considerable amount of poor, and all that comes with that, the health crisis that comes with that, even with something like Obamacare or ACA, we still have people who are underinsured. Food insecurity is becoming an increasing issue. So thinking about all the ways in which poverty manifests in our day-to-day lives, the closing of public schools, right? These kinds of issues are really of concern to me. And I think they fall out of the conversation when we put the emphasis in our political conversations about the middle class specifically.